Alright, set the scene. She puts her hand on the handle as the music comes to a halt. Her breathing is heavy as she contemplates the risk and the reward of opening the door. We are sweating, wondering how we got there. She finally decides. She twists the handle and opens the door. Behind it, a shadowed room. She sighs. It was a false alarm. Boom! A loud sound comes back in the music as a knife gets encrusted in her shoulder. She cries as she falls on the floor, trying to get away from the door. A silhouette gets out of the room. She cries, "No!" The camera moves behind the culprit. We see her next to his leg in a dual focus. "Please," she winces, "show me who you are before killing me." We hear the mask strings get unfastened, and he removes his mask, holding it in his hand, closer to the camera, showing us a deformed pig face. "You motherfuck!" she starts before he slices her neck with a knife. The camera changes location from over the door. They are in a school. The bell rings as the killer known as the Piglet puts his mask back on. Around the poor Josie, her blood pools in an almost perfect circle. In his escape, the slasher steps in the blood. The camera zooms in. The sole of his shoe left a mark. The wincing four. The return of the terrifying pain. Okay, this is so dumb. Let's talk about horror movies. So, hi, hello, my name is Gabiio, and if that cold open didn't show you already, this is going to be a video about horror movies, specifically my favorite horror movies, and why I love them so much. I have a distant and weird relationship with horror movies. For a long time, the only idea I had of horror movies were the Saw movies, at least that genre, and I gotta say, I hate it. I hate the needless gore that is in it, and the way it is. It's not my type of movie, unfortunately. It took me realizing how good some horror movies and their fantastical elements could be, and how creative horror movies could be, to make me realize that it was one of my favorite genre. So, without further ado, I'm gonna go talk about my 3 favorite ones in order in which I saw them, and talk about why I love them so much. So, let's go. Part 1. Us by Jordan Peele. Alright, so I have a short story about Us and how I discovered this movie. I have a story about Us specifically. In post-secondary school, I went into art, but my school didn't work in like regular artsy way. I had a lot of art classes because I was in art, but I also had cinema and literature class to like have a like full idea of what art could be. So it was really fun experience. And in my second semester, my cinema class was super interesting, and for the final, I had to go see one movie. There was a list of movies that we could go see, but there was we needed to go see one in theaters. And if I'm right, there were like 5 choices, which were 3 timepiece movies, 2 from Quebec and 1 from France, 1 French comedy from France, or Us by Jordan Peele. To me, this was the worst possible choices I could get because I don't like timepieces, I don't really like French movies, and I don't really like comedies, and horror movies scared the shit out of me. So, what do? I went to see Us, because it was like, at least, like, it's gonna be enjoyable, and the worst that can happen is I'm gonna be scared as shit. But, so I went to see the movie, and I was alone in the theater. I shit you not, like, until 3 minutes before the beginning of the movie. It was a really scary experience. It was like, oh my god, I'm gonna be alone in the theater watching a horror movie. Needless to say, I'm a scaredy cat. So I watched a movie, and then at first I was like, oh, it's gonna be fine, I'm gonna, like, survive. And then I had the best experience in a movie theater I've, like, ever had. It was such a good movie, and in a way that I didn't think was possible. I had so much fun. So I was like, that's it. I'm gonna start enjoying horror movies for what they are, because clearly there's something I'm missing here, because it's not all needless gore. Yeah. So then I fell in love with Jordan Peele's directing. I still think that Jordan Peele is one of my favorite directors of all time. I really, really like Us. Get Out is just as good. And then whatever he produces, like not a director, but what he produces is really good. I really like Antebellum. I can't wait for his version of Candyman. Like, it's gonna be so good. So what do I love about Us specifically? So first of all, let's talk about the story. The story is really interesting. It's it's a classic doppelganger story, but kind of like twisted on itself. It is like a really classic story. Basically, it's literally just clones of you, or like doppelgangers, like people identical as you doing crimes, but it's also like killing the original person. So it like twists a trope on its head just a little, just enough to be like different and fun. And this movie also really plays with tropes and what it is, because it starts off as a home invasion movie, but quickly it turns into a slasher movie, which I really like. And then at some points it's more funny, other parts it's more emotional, and it all like comes up into a very tight ending that is like really interesting, and then it's open-ended. Anyway, I really, really like the story of this movie. I think it tells a really fun story. Um Apart from that, Lupita Nyong'o is so good. She is excellent. Her portrayal of both Adelaide and Red is so good. Lupita Nyong'o is such a good actress, and I can't wait to see more projects of hers, because I really need to watch Little Monsters. Apparently she's really good in that too. But yeah, I really, really like her, and all of these actors are really good when they play the doppelgangers. It's a very interesting play, because but Lupita Nyong'o is the one that does it best, but it feels like they're two different characters, like, and two different actors. They don't act the same. The imagery of that movie is also incredible. I'm not going to go into spoilers for any of these movies, but like one that is really interesting is that Adelaide's outfit starts off as white, and the more the movie goes on, it becomes red. And then at the end, you understand why, because so good. Yeah, the imagery is great. The rabbits are great, like this imagery specifically. The outfits and the choreography. Red, so Lupita Nyong'o, when she plays Red, particularly in the ending scene, the ballet scene, so fucking good. It is incredible. So, I guess I talked about Us for like 5 minutes now, so I think it's over. But yeah, Us is such a good movie. It is definitely like in my top 3 movies of all time. And my final grade would have to be 10 out of 10. For real. Like, I didn't think I would give it 10 out of 10, but it just is. It's just so fucking good. Part 2. Scream. Scream is one of those movies that everybody knows in the horror genre, but not a lot of people talk about it for some reason. Or at least maybe it's just my perception, but Scream was really good. So let's start with a little bit of like what I expected about the story. Before I knew about Scream, like before I watched the movie, all I really knew about this movie is that it was like kind of cliche and everybody knew about it, but like it was like kind of not scary, and it was kind of repetitive and nobody really liked it that much. It was just iconic for the sake of being iconic, and I was like, huh, that doesn't sound that good. Also, all those kids all the time wearing those masks on Halloween, and I was like, this costume looks so ugly, how can that be scary? And then I watched a movie around this Halloween, because right before, in October, I had a big workload in school, and I like watching movies while I do homework. So I watched Scream, and oh my fucking god, it was so much better than I could have expected. It was so good. Another one that was really surprising to me for some reason. Alright, so the story revolves around Sydney Prescott, which 1 year after her mom dies, she is caught in another murder spree. by other people around our school. The actress that plays Sydney Prescott is so good. Matthew Lillard plays a character in this, which is so good too. Matthew Lillard is such a fun actor. He's really, really incredible. I really like his work. The Gail Weathers was also such a great character. I know that she played in Friends with the actress, I think, that played Sydney. I know nothing about Friends, so you know. But great, great, great actors on that movie. And oh my god. This is a minor spoiler for the first 10 minutes of the movie, so I'm gonna put time skip where to skip it from here. But at the beginning of the movie, one character played by a very famous actress dies, and what is so funny about that is that she was on every single promotional event about this. She was like the sender, like people thought she was the lead, and she like instantly dies. It's such a fun trope and a fun way to divert the audience. And yeah, so the movie is really, really good. I watched the 4 movies in like 2 days. 1 is really, really strong, 2 is fine, 3 is pretty bad, and 4 is okay. The first one is so good. And yeah, the costume. Turns out the costume sucks because it's meant to suck, and that is such a fun... It's so funny. It is so funny that it's like, oh my god, this costume sucks, and everybody agrees, but it's part of the story, and it is so good. Also, just like in Us, there's a lot of tropes and trope subversion in that movie, which is so interesting. I feel like Scream started a lot of tropes accidentally. So Scream has, like, it came in like 99, I believe, or like in the late 90s. And after it came after Halloween, Friday the 13th, stuff like that. So there was already a lot of tropes around slasher movies, right? But and it played with those tropes. It tried to subvert it. There is a whole character that is only there to be like, haha, horror tropes. And it is so good because it is like the first time it was done. And then it was like, if you watch it now, after watching a lot of horror movies, you're gonna be like, oh, it's played out. But it's, a lot of people retook that, which is so funny. People are like, oh my god. It's a really, really fun movie. And like, it's not that serious. Like, it's scary for what it is, but it's more like anxious than scary per se. But it's still like really, really fun. Yeah, so final thoughts. I went into the movie being like, classic, I need to watch it, and I came out with a solid 9 out of 10. I really enjoyed it, and I watched it a couple of times now. I like rewatching movies, so don't worry, it's been like a couple of months, but I watched it a couple of times. But yeah, really, really strong, and I really recommend Scream to people who either really like horror movies and don't know a lot of older horror movies. It's not that old, but you know what I mean. Or people who don't like horror movies or are too scared to watch horror movies but really want to get into it. I think Scream is a very good place to start. Part 3. Gingersnaps. Alright, this one might be a little less known than the other 2 because it's a little bit older. It's like early 2000s, but it's also not very known because it was an independent movie. So I'm talking about Gingersnaps. The way I found Gingersnaps is really funny. So let's go on a tangent together. I really like weird Netflix shows. So I really like, I don't know how really, but sometimes Netflix shows that are supposed to be bad are just funny. So I really liked Society, but particularly The Order. The Order was really fun to me, and I can talk about this later if you want, but my favorite character in The Order was Vera Stone, which was the, not headmistress, but like the lady in charge, if you want. And she's played by Catherine Isabelle, which is important because I looked her up because I was like, I really like your acting. I think you're really cool. So I started following her on Instagram, as you do. And like 2 weeks after I started following her, she started a Twitch channel. I'm not a live stream viewer, but I was like, you're here. So I went in and I followed her on Twitch and I watched a bunch of her Twitch streams, and she's so funny and she's so interesting. and I really, really like her. Not that big of a streamer, I think, but like she's pretty big. She had a lot of people following her. So multiple times during some of her live streams, she was talking about gingersnaps. I was like, what is that? So I looked it up, and it was on Prime Videos. So I watched it, and it was so fun. Catherine Isabelle plays the main character, which is called Ginger. And it's an indie Canadian horror movie, and it is so good. It is so funny. So the premise of the movie is two sisters who really love everything macabre. They really like somber things, and like death interests them, and they have a pact that if they're either gonna die before they're 16 or they're gonna live forever together. And like the first 5 minutes of the movie is a montage of the way they could die, and like them rating them like, oh, this is boring, this is not. It is very dark, but it is such a good movie. And then, so the premise is those two sisters are like not popular, they're not known, and Ginger, played by Katie Isabella, is older, but they're in the same grade because Bridget jumped a grade. So they're like inseparable, but they get attacked by the monster of their town, because there is a monster in their town who eats dogs, and Ginger gets bitten. And we figure out that this monster was in fact a werewolf. And so Ginger slowly turns into a werewolf. It's a very interesting story because it plays with the lycanthrope mythos, but like in a different way a little. Because like the goal of the movie is Bridget, the little sister, trying to help Ginger by quote unquote saving her. But Ginger also doesn't really want to be saved. And it's a really interesting tale of like growing up, growing apart, like maturing into your own person. It's a very weird movie. Like it's definitely a little out of left field, but it is really, really good. The messaging is great, and the acting is really good. Katie does a very good job. Emily Perkins, who plays Bridget, which is the girl in the first It movies, like in the 80s. So very good actors for this. And also in the second one, I've not watched the second one yet. I'm probably going to watch it a little after this video goes up. But Tatiana Maslany plays in the second one, which Tatiana Maslany played in Orphan Black, which is my favorite show of all time. And then also is going to play She-Hulk, but I'm going into attention here. But yeah, so the acting is great. The special effects can be a little boring because they're old and indie. They didn't have a lot of money, but it's also very interesting. And like the wolf puppet at the end is very good, like for the time being. Like it's a little, but it's very good. And also they are planning to do a sequel series or a reboot series, which interests me a lot. I can't wait to watch it, honestly. I hope it's going to be great. And I really hope Catherine Isabelle comes back as like an adult or something. Also, if you watch Gingersnaps, the mother is so funny. Like, very funny. So anyway, as a final thoughts, this is such a good movie. And I would definitely give it like 9 out of 10 for sure. So, these were my favorite horror movies. I hope you had a great time with me geeking out about movies and like what I like in horror movies. So tropes, subversion of them particularly, but like everything in that realm is really fun. So I don't think I have anything else to add. This was already long enough. So Thank you for coming. I hope you had a great time and see you next time.